Thank you, everyone. Good morning and welcome to FashTech Lab 2022. Bittersweet, it's our final knowledge exchange today, but we're excited to have you all with us. And I'm going to pass over to the wonderful Lord Mayor Clover Moore, our wonderful supporters from the City of Sydney. Unfortunately, Clover couldn't join us in person today, but she's very kindly shared a video. So thank you and good morning, everyone.
Thank you, Tracy, and hello, everyone. Welcome to the final AFC FashTech Lab 2022 Knowledge Exchange event. I would first like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of our land, and pay my respects to elders both past and present. For our city to thrive, we know we need an environment that fosters collaboration and learning. That's why the city proudly provides knowledge exchange grants, sponsorship to support projects that invest in local expertise and encourage discussion on local and global issues. When the Australian Fashion Council came to us with a pitch to help match fashion brands with technology companies, to help reduce textile waste and carbon emissions, we jumped at the chance to help. We're very proud to be home to some of Australia's most established brands and newer emerging designers. And we know how challenging these past 2 years have been for many of you. But like with many sectors of our economy and communities that have been impacted, the road to recovery is made easier if we travel it together. I'm delighted that AFC's FashTech Lab has been able to bring you together with some of our city's best tech talent to help you explore new digital frontiers, not only to recover, but to grow, to innovate, to future-proof your businesses. I know that technology can be intimidating and expensive, especially for small businesses. Hopefully, FashTech Lab has removed some of the obstacles and risk and will ultimately drive more sustainable and responsible practice in the fashion industry. I'm particularly excited that you're putting your minds to improve carbon emissions. Textile waste is on the rise and the fashion industry is now the planet's third largest polluter, releasing 5% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. Locally, Australians discard over 6,000 kilograms of textile and clothing waste every 10 minutes. I think we can agree that style shouldn't cost the earth, so your work to limit that waste and create a more sustainable industry is promising and appreciated. I hope you have found the last 6 months fulfilling, that your conversations continue beyond this program, so you can continue bridging the gap between fashion design and textile manufacturing through technology. I hope the ideas and experience you have gained help you thrive in a digital sustainable environment and transform how you do business for the better.
Thank you so much, Clover. So wonderful to hear her passion and excitement for our category, our business and our mission. I wanted to welcome to the stage Layla, CEO of AFC, and again, another very dear and passionate supporter of our program. We're so grateful for your energy and your mission, Layla. You have been a charging force behind FashTech Labs, and I'd love to welcome you to the stage this morning.
Thank you so much. Hi, Tracy. Thank you so much for this and for your amazing energy behind this as well. I want to say thank you to everyone who's joining us here for this final AFC FashTech Lab Knowledge Exchange session. So yes, I am Layla Najahibri, the CEO of the AFC. But first, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the many lands on which we are meeting today. We're hosting the session on Gadigal land of the Eora Nation, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. And a very special thank you to Lord Mayor Clover Moore and the team at the City of Sydney for their generous and ongoing support for the AFC and our FashTech Lab program. Thank you also to the University of Technology Sydney and the IMCRC, who assisted the program participants in analyzing their transformation readiness with the use of future map diagnostic tools. And finally, I would like to specifically thank Pete Smith of Style Atlas, who has been integral to the success of this program and who has championed the need for an Australian fashion technology program from the very beginning. The AFC's FashTech Lab has given a select cohort of progressive and future-focused fashion brands within the City of Sydney an opportunity to trial a digital sampling workflow by removing the barriers that have historically prevented them from adopting new technology into their businesses. And the innovative pioneer technology partners participating in this program have shared their knowledge and worked together to create this unique collaborative workflow, allowing them as well to better understand their role within the product value chain, as well as giving them an opportunity to refine their approach in encouraging digital adoption within the fashion industry. The FashTech Lab program will produce a business case showing the time, cost, carbon, and textile waste savings that can be made by adopting a hybrid or completely digital design and sampling process that was undertaken in partnership between the fashion and technology participants. We look forward to sharing these results with you very, very soon. And I completely agree with Mayor Moore when she said that for our city to thrive, we need to create an environment that fosters collaboration and learning. In fact, for the fashion and textile industry to thrive and actually survive, we need to be more progressive and courageous in our adoption of innovation and technology. Knowledge exchange within the AFC's FashTech Lab allowed the participating fashion brands and tech partners to share the ideas, learnings, and challenges of such collaborations, and then broadcast and amplify these learnings to our wider AFC community. We hope that you've gained as much value from this program as we have. This morning, we're excited to bring you this final knowledge exchange session, which will conclude the digital journey our brands and tech partners have been on for the past 6 months. And so now back to Tracy to kick off the session, which will delve into sustainable selling technology. Thank you so much to all, and thank you, Tracy.
Thank you so much, Leila. I have been so grateful to be part of the last 6 months and so excited about today's session. As you can see, I have my amazing avatar here, which my children thought was very funny and apparently a lot younger looking than Mum looks in real life. But this is part of the excitement of sustainable digital fashion and what we're going to talk about today. For those of you that are joining us for the very first time, and I know that a number of you have been very excited about our topic around sustainable selling, FashTech Labs is a 6-month process. We've been together on a journey, as Lord Mayor Clover and Leila spoke about. We've actually come together to build a working proof of concept around what the transformation journey looks like when collaboration happens between technology and industry to solve some of the most pressing problems. And so our 6-month program of work has actually taken a cohort of fashion businesses based in the city of Sydney together with Australian technology companies and our wonderful partners at IMCRC and UTS through a step-by-step process. So here we are today, and today we're actually going to be joined by a number of our fashion brands from our City of Sydney cohort. If you've watched any of the previous Knowledge Exchange, you will have heard from businesses like Q and West 14th and whatnot. And today we're going to welcome to the stage 3 more brands to take you through their journey. So quick Q&A moment. If you see in Zoom, you've got both the chat and the Q&A function. If you can drop your questions into the Q&A at the end of each section today, we will take questions from the audience. I'll be on point there. But also the first part of today's session is about the 3D workflow solution. So again, if you're joining us today to learn about the future of digital selling, this is the first part, which is the workflow stage. So all of the decisions that are made before you move into garment production. Stay posted. So the first brand I want to welcome to the stage today is Bianca Spender, and I'm very grateful that our dear friend Stephen Carter is going to take us through his part in learning about digitization of a connected workflow. And the image I've flashed up on the screen today is our working hypothesis. So the top side here of this workflow in pink, this is what we presume would be an analog fashion sampling process, where you would start with range planning and move into design, produce tech packs, and on we go. Now, for the hypothetical case study for the last 6 months, we've been testing a parallel strategy, which is a digital workflow, starting with the digitization of your fabric. So instead of taking a bolt of fabric, we've seen the team at Bandicoot, navigate all the different types of textiles that our cohort has chosen to use, from leather and fur and print and silk and satin, and some of the exciting learnings that you're going to hear from our fashion businesses today, into range planning. If you're a design team on the line, you'll know exactly what we're talking about. And instead, we've taken them into digital tech packs and avatars and 3D twirls, and then into 3D sampling and virtual fitting. So let's hear from Stephen and his journey. Kia ora, Stephen. Welcome.
Hello, Tracy. Hello, everybody. Thank you for your time this morning. So we've had a really interesting little journey with the 3D building. It's been, we've probably done it a little bit differently from, I'm sorry if there's a bit of background noise, we've probably done it a little bit differently than some of the other brands, in that we provided our patterns. We were a little bit, we had a few delays getting started with the program. We had Fashion Week and all sorts of things to attend to, and it's only quite a small team at Bianca. We're probably a little bit different in that at the moment, we are our only customer at Bianca. So I guess the real benefit of seeing the 3D, it's probably not going to be applied in the same way as other brands. You could use it as a selling tool at the moment, but it was really great to see how we could use it and how our things will come to life, or how our products will come to life. We were, as I said, we were a little bit kind of late to the program and late getting started, and I do send out an enormous thank you to Pete, who was really generous with his time and his support for us to get our tech packs built, and coming over to Darling Point to help us as well, and making sure that there were things to show you today and not blank slides for Tracy to go through. So we really, really, really appreciate that. I guess for me, the really interesting thing was that first part of building the tech pack. Even though it was a slightly, like everything, the program looks different and you think it's going to be a bit tricky and you don't understand it, once we got the hang of it, I can see that it would be a really great tool or a really great way to build tech packs, because having everything, once everything's in your library and having visuals and things, it's just very easy to build the tech pack, and I could certainly see that a massive advantage. I think one thing that threw Pete a little bit was when I said we don't have tech packs, and he was like, didn't quite, it's like, really? It's like, and we don't. For those people that may not know, Bianca Spender makes everything locally here in Australia, and I guess in a way we're still very, maybe a little bit to our detriment, we're still very old school. You know, Bianca works very heavily with draping fabric on a mannequin first to kind of create the shapes and the styles that she wants. And then we translate those into patterns. So we maybe do that a little bit differently than some of the way some of the other brands are working. And then for us too, working with local manufacturers, there's just a different way of working. Some of them might want a spec sheet, but for our makers, they don't. So they get a garment, they get a resolved sample to follow along with cut work. And for some people that would be really confusing, but they figure it out. But certainly, like I say, this process of getting to the 3D stage, we could see it as a really amazing tool for, we're looking at selling our product internationally as a wholesale model. So there's certainly lots and lots of opportunities for us that we can see. If you want to just go to the next slide, Tracy, and we can start showing some of the things that we put together. So we were asked to challenge the process a little bit by giving some products with drape, which is very Bianca. There's lots of fabric manipulation and draping and things that, I just spent some time explaining to a friend recently. They couldn't understand how we made things without a pattern first. And then when I showed them what one of our pinned pieces looks like after it's been draped, they're like, oh, how would you ever thought to make that pattern shape to begin with. So some of the styles they look quite simple, but they are quite complicated. I know that we'd certainly challenge our makers sometimes. We had our makers in last week, and one of them said that, you know, some of their workers go a bit dizzy because they don't know how to twist the fabric and push it through and manipulate it. But we were really amazed at the renderings that came back. This is just a toile version. And I think even when, I know with our pattern makers, she spent a little bit of time talking maybe with Twyla as well, of just the understanding of what pieces go together, how pieces go together, because I guess when you're working in a 3D way, having those kind of markings for what panels go joined to what panels is quite important when it's in the, I guess, in a cut work form. So as a matching notches and marks on the pattern, and they've got that to follow. But we were really happy with how this rendering came as a toile. And I think certainly if we did look at a different way of working, or if we were manipulating existing blocks and patterns, this would be a really quick way for us to see different things that we could do, because it can be quite time consuming working in the way that Bianca does work with draping on a stand, because then you have to kind of take that off the stand, create your pattern out of it, and then make the garment. So this could be a super way to certainly speed up the process in some respects.
Really awesome reflection. Thank you. And for those of you joining for the first time, what you're seeing is a toile that's been produced by Twyla at Couture CAD. So she has done all of our digital pattern making and also does analog pattern making for a large number of brands in Australia and beyond.
If you want to go to the next slide, that's our that's our skirt. We made all of the samples that we provided were in the same fabric. It was in a like a silk satin. So again, we were quite happy with the way this kind of came together. It's a really good and true representation of how the garment does look. We were super happy with our mannequin as well. I know that internally we measured our fit model, and then Bianca tries a lot of things on herself. So we had two people that we kind of combined together to get our avatar, and we actually didn't do any tweaking of the avatar. We were super happy with, you know, the model that was presented to us. So even in that respect, I guess it's, you know, it wasn't kind of patchy. It was really, we were amazed. We just thought, you know, when the first one came through, oh, something might look a bit off. We might need to tweak things. And I guess the reality of what kind of gets produced from the measurements and the data provided is pretty outstanding. So again, this is just a trial. We were really happy with this. And if you could move to the next slide, we can see the next.
I love the walk cycles always.
Walks are good. So I guess the only thing, and this is a little bit unfair for me to say because Pete and everyone worked so hard on this for us last week to get to this. And when we looked at it together on Friday, I guess the only feedback we would have with that, and I haven't had the opportunity to talk to Pete or anyone at Pons about it, is we just felt that the fabric maybe looked a little bit bouncy for what it was.
Yeah.
But we haven't had the chance to kind of give that feedback or tweak it. But for a first kind of, you know, if we were presented that, here's your first go, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And then that slide, next slide too, was really good. I mean, that really looks like the garments. It's interesting with the fabric rendering. When we first looked at it and the way it was moving, it was almost looked too shiny and looks like, we almost thought, oh, it looks a bit like Lycra. But then when you see them in the models here, it really looks like the silk satin. So we were really blown away by that and how great it looks. And just, yeah, I mean, for some people, they'd be hard pressed to think that they were looking at a rendering of a garment there. It looks like the real thing.
Well, the taste appeal, I mean, and it's not fair because what you're seeing is you're seeing a rendered garment that I've then dropped into Google Docs for everyone to enjoy this morning. So it's not even at the same level of fidelity that Stephen's seeing it on his screen within the process. So the appetite appeal on this is just mind-blowing how beautiful and photorealistic it was for me. When I saw these images come in, I was like, I need to find a way to insert them into Zoom so I could wear them this morning. You know, it's so beautiful. And absolutely, this has been part of my learning journey as well, is just watching the design team do the work that they do. In particular, this is a digital sample, a 3D sample that Pons has produced from Pons Studio, who handled all of our garment design, and just the resonance and the way the light's hitting that fabric is just beautiful.
It is.
Just
We
beautiful.
were really happy.
Let
I
me
think there might be another slide too, isn't there? Yeah, the
skirt.
skirt. Yeah, they were all amazing. Like it was really, you know, we were a little bit blown away as to how good they looked. I mean, well, I certainly saw that from other presentations in previous weeks, but it's always nice when you see your, you know, your own that you're familiar with. And yeah, as I say, it's really, really super realistic. I mean, it would be, there'd be a hard argument to say that this wouldn't be a great selling tool if you were trying to present a collection to somebody who was perhaps overseas, or because that's certainly an issue for us. We're only a small company and we're very lean on our sampling. We don't make multiple sets of samples. It certainly adds quite a lot of pressure to our timeline and also to our costs. You know, the relatively high price of our products. So I think of being able to have this as a presentation tool as well, even if it was perhaps something that you weren't selling from, we could really see the mileage in this for being a really great tool to just show your collection in a snapshot, but with some kind of, you know, life to it and stuff. It's, you know, people, I mean, nearly every company I've worked in has some form of range book, but you're really just looking at a flat garment. Even if you had images like this in your range book, it just gives them a whole new dimension that you just don't get from a flat illustration or photograph.
And it's interesting you mentioned photographing, is that we were talking to one of the young designers at our virtual coffee catch up, and she had mentioned that she'd spent 10 grand on a shoot, and then it needed to be put into post-production into digital studio to get the lighting and whatnot right, and that took a number of weeks, so quite a heavy investment for her to build her lookbook. And then looking at the alternative strategy, which is just go straight to digitization, and voila, it was definitely a perspective that she hadn't considered previously.
And I think a really great way too. I mean, I think even for us, where, you know, we have a fairly staple component of core products. We have, you know, designs that people love. And I think for us, even being able to utilize this as a tool to just be able to create our items in different fabrics, I think that's a massive win for us. You know, we don't have to sample something, oh, what would that skirt look like in that fabric? You know, to be able to just scan the fabric and have a library of fabrics that you could then apply to different styles would just be you know, a huge time saving and decision making thing for us.
Just going to show a few more, showing them together, the last little bits of detail, just so that the audience can see what we're looking at, and then beautifully put together as an outfit.
Yeah, and even just like with the renderings, having the labels in and things like that, it's just those little details that really bring it to life and, you know, make it just, I don't know, just that little bit more realistic than they do.
Thank you so much, Stephen. It's been so wonderful to get your perspectives. I really appreciate what a journey, and thanks for your energy. Thanks for your energy. Love it. Thank you. Good morning, kia ora. I'd like to welcome to the stage Olivia at Palisade. Thank you for joining us. I know it's very late for you in New York. I appreciate you jumping on, and love to hear about your journey. Welcome.
Yes. Thanks, Tracy. Yes, I'm Olivia. I'm the founder of Palisade, and we actually started as a swimwear label, and it was a bit of a passion project during COVID, but now we've also grown to ready to wear. So we have some curated wardrobe staples that are linen, tailored suiting and sets. So we're really small. We're still growing. We're in the very early stages. So it's great to be recognized by the Australian Fashion Council and go through this process. It's been quite amazing. We are sustainable. We try to be as sustainable as possible. We use natural fibers, and we're made in very low quantities in India. So it's almost like a made to order process, and we try and use as many recycled fabrics as well. So as much as we can do, we do. So having this opportunity to create some digital samples was an absolute necessity for us, and we'll definitely be using this moving forward. It's also been a great way to just understand the sampling process, because we are so young to the fashion world, and trying to set up all of our processes early on in our production process, so we don't have that problem of having to switch all of our sampling processes online. We're literally starting from scratch, which has been a really, really great opportunity. There's only two of us, so it's myself that does all the designing. and we make all the samples in-house. And we do that because we have a lot of control over making those samples, instead of relying on external partners and having the shipping and all of that, just to try and keep costs down. But we having this digital experience has really shortened the time frame, and obviously only being a team of 2, it's really made us so agile in order to create different styles. You know, we don't stick to the usual fashion season cycle. We can create one style 1 week, and then, you know, the next week we're creating 6. So it's very costly for us to keep creating samples. So this has been like an actual godsend. Yeah, so we can jump into the toile that we made with Couture CAD. This is a merino knit dress with some fabric panel features. So we wanted to create something that's quite different to what we've created in the past. It's a knitwear dress, so we're used to linen, which is not stretch. You know, it's very easy to structure. This is a very fluid kind of fabric. So we wanted to, having this opportunity, we wanted to experiment with what would a different fabric look like in one of the designs that we've come up with. So this is a bit of a twist on a very, very basic dress. We're still finding our look and feel. So I think it's a really nice experience to be able to just come up with something, chuck it on an avatar and see what it looks like, because we're still finding ourselves as a brand as well. The process was really seamless. The team was super quick with the changes, and making sure that, you know, those panels on the dress looked like right and in the right place. And the dress itself fitted really well with, like, you know, talking about how does it connect on the shoulders, and do we need like a strap for it to hide the bra straps, and, you know, things like that that you think about when you're sampling, but maybe don't have the opportunity to when you're just in the design phase. And it gave us an opportunity to create something that we wouldn't usually. So you'll see in our 3D sample that we experimented with some colors as well. And this is the garment in action. So great to see how it moves. Obviously, like I said, it's, you know, it's not linen. So it was good to see all that movement in the model with her giant strides as well.
It's one of the things where I know that across the board, one of the wonderful points of collaboration has been, to Stephen's point before around the way that the fabric moved on the skirt, is just those little tweaks. And I know that when we were in the rendering stage with fabric, as the Bandicoot team handled different types of textures and textiles, that the maths behind the way the light hit, the way the fabric moves, that when you're working with textiles every day, you intuitively know what that should look like. Now, obviously, a technologist has a brain that's able to translate really interesting information and then put it on the screen. So this kind of tweaking process where you go, actually, Tracy, merino, it's going to be a little, the way it moves is like a small less, or, you know, it's a bit more, you know, just to be able to share that perspective, which gets us to the point of more realistic sampling and gives us more confidence, right? It's been really great to hear those conversations that have been terrific learning opportunities for everyone. Just cool.
Yeah. I think the biggest surprise is that how realistic it actually is. So definitely, you know, something that I believe designers should be using a lot nowadays. I think that's probably where it's headed. And the realistic nature of the fabric on the screen is actually quite crazy. So I wouldn't see why anyone wouldn't use it. So yeah,
colorways. I love this.
Yeah, so we definitely tried to experiment with some different colors. Definitely not our usual style, but, you know, as I said, we're still finding ourselves. So we wanted to see what, you know, our creative thinking could look like on a garment. And so great to do this digitally, because we can just, with a flick of a button, say, you know, can we change this to a different color? And it's just so easy and quick. And the team has been so great with those changes. So yeah, we have 2 different colorways here. And who knows, like, you know, we'll go into production with probably both of these. And I'm really intrigued to see how it looks, you know, in real life from the screen. Be a great way to see the end of the product as well. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And just some close-up shots again, just to be able to see that lovely finish with ponds. And your final samples.
Yes. Yeah, we're very happy, and we're very thankful to the AFC team and all the tech partners that were just so involved with the process and really wanted to make it look amazing for all designers. So thank
you for participating. We're really pleased to have your help. Thank you. Now, our third brand is Matteau. I'm so grateful for your time, Peter, who has dashed from the airport to very, very kindly share her learnings this morning. Thank you so much, Peter.
Good morning,
we're
everyone.
huge Matteau fans, and we're very grateful for your contribution from the beginning to the end. It's been wonderful to have your participation.
We've been really happy to be involved.
Love to hear a bit about your experience with the process. On the line today, we actually have some people that haven't followed the journey from the beginning to the end. So we would love to hear about Matteau and how you've tackled the 3D sampling workflow.
So I think I said on a previous panel that we're involved with, we actually started to look at this process ourselves. Probably it was before COVID actually. So we started to look at Clo 3D, and our big, I guess our frustration at the time was there was the technology wasn't there to come along on the journey with us. So it was something that we sort of put on ice, and we thought, oh, well, things will catch up eventually. COVID hit. And then it was just a conversation Pete Smith and I were having 6 months ago, Pete, just on Quadrant. And we started talking, and sort of, I don't know, a few months later, he got in touch to see if we were interested to be as part of this project. So of course I jumped right at the opportunity, and it's been really amazing. I guess we did it a little bit differently in that we, I guess to test how realistic the whole, I guess from the sampling process to a finished garment was, we reversed it. So we used garments that we already had in production. So we had gone through the entire fit process to get to a final garment, and we started there. So essentially we took our pattern, and that was all uploaded with our tech packs into Quadrant. We sent our fabrics off for scanning, and then we got our first trial back. That was, I guess, that more low res kind of render. And then all of our fabrics were applied onto the garments, and we were kind of quite blown away, because I think for us, in terms of the time and the cost and obviously the fabric savings and everything that goes into it, because I think a lot of what happens is we're also rushed, and we've got to get everything shot, and you get to into that whole cycle, and then you get to a stage where you've produced your samples, and then you end up cutting a whole bunch of it, and it just feels so wasteful as well. So here we can look at basically putting our garment into our different fabrics and what works and what doesn't in certain prints and colors, and we're able to, I think, we'll refine the collection a lot more before we even produce one single sample. So did you want to have a look?
I would love to share some of the images, because I'm lucky I get to see them myself. So what are we looking at here?
Yeah, so this is our summer chino. So this is something that's already online. It's a tried and tested garment. So we basically put this tech pack in. We sent the fabric off for scanning. This is our first toiles that we got back. And then we basically provided feedback, which was really very minimal. And then our fabric got overlaid onto this. Is that the next slide, Pete?
Okay.
Yeah, so then taking it into this is it's a cotton twill. You can see the 3D look of the garment, but essentially it's a very realistic look at the garment. You can see the inside, you can see the details, and then is the next slide our actual garment, Pete?
This is where we move. No, this is where we move.
We'll come back to that. We did the same with our low back slip dress. So this is it's a silk CDC. It's just a low back bias cut dress. Then you'll see that put into our actual fabric. So this is silk CDC we sent off for scanning. So that gets all of the drape and the fall. And I guess
the pattern over here is crazy. I was looking at the pattern today and I'm like, good grief, like actually the way the renderings come up.
It's so realistic. Yeah. So that was our low back slip, and then this is our sponge dress. This was our first twirl that came back. We've just had in the final garments, we just had the elastic measurements relaxed off a little bit just to reduce that bunching at the waist, but otherwise it's really close to the finished garment. So you see that.
I'm going to take you through the colorways, and for those of you who are watching for the first time and aren't necessarily deep in the sampling side of the business, what you're seeing is a twirl on an avatar, which is at your first stage of digital pattern making by Twila, and then it moves into more refined, highly rendered digital art. So Pons Studio, Pons drives the digital sampling, where we start to move into more photorealistic garments. So you'll see that the quality of the images increase as we go further along, as they would if you're working with baseline calico fabric and patterns.
Yeah. So this is in our terracotta colorway. Next slide. This is in our starflower. And this is in our amethyst wildflower and black.
And then seeing the three together.
And then that's the 3D close-up, so you can see the garment in detail.
Amazing.
And then we'll be able to see them on model in a minute. So you can see, you can release elastic, you can change volume. It's amazing. So all of this before you've produced a single physical garment.
And I love this. I was like, wow. So on the left.
Yeah, so on the left is actually an e-com shot from our website.
So that is the Mateau liner.
Is there any other comparisons? Okay.
These are the images that I have today.
No, that's okay. It was actually, we were really, really blown away in terms of how it all came together. And it was just, once we saw it all come together, we were like, okay, this has to happen from our next collection. But I think in terms of, you know, the time to market is just so reduced in terms of what you can produce, and all without making a physical sample. So I think at this point we would go to a physical sample and then make any final tweaks on body. Yeah.
Off the back of this. So that's really wonderful. And interestingly, these are the sorts of questions that I can see coming through, you know, on the Q&A. So pardon me, we are going to step into a Q&A with the three of you. If I may, Stephen, Peter, Olivia, I'm just going to get Sam's help. Everyone's off mute. Wonderful. Talk to me about this process. Now, I first of all, I thought I would give you the opportunity. If any one of you would like to ask a question of another, it's really nice to hear. Often the questions, you know, Stephen, do you have a query for Olivia, or Olivia, one for Peter? I'll let you start with an opening question, and then I'm going to be a bit selfish and take over with my questions.
I actually don't really, I'll go on.
No, you go.
No, after you, ladies first.
I was just going to ask Peter more about the gathering of the dress and how you communicated with Twila on that. How did the language come about? I know it's really hard to communicate when it's not an actual physical thing. And, you know, you were also talking about, Stephen, you were talking about the drapage as well. I didn't have that with my design. So just interested to see how that communication went.
So with us, obviously, I said we had already had a physical garment. So our pattern was sent across with our tech pack. So essentially the instruction was, you know, with that part of the garment was to be gathered, and it has a measurement in there. So essentially, you know, when it's put together, those measurements all go into, as I understand it, how Twila puts the garment together to give, I guess, you know, how much volume you get in that, or how tight, you know, the elastic is. But, you know, we did ask at one stage for that just to be released on the waist. So you can make all of those changes as well. So it is literally like feeding back to your pattern maker and making changes or just updating measurements in your tech pack.
Awesome question. That was a good question. Stephen, were you just going to comment rather than there was a comment rather than a question?
I did. I don't have a question as such, because I think what's just blown me away is just the realistic nature of the renderings. It was like the last one with Matteau with the print. I mean, kind of sorry to say, I could actually see the print clearer on the rendering than I could on the photo. I mean, it's, you know, it's that good. You know, it was like we had to take a step back. Like I said, when we showed ours with the fabric, because we were like, is that our fabric? It looks like lycra. It was so shiny. But then when you saw it on the garment and saw it move, it really looked like silk satin. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, the fabric rendering is incredible because it takes into account weight and drape and fall and movement. The way they create it, it's really incredible. That was one thing we were quite reserved about to start with, actually. You know, we thought, well, how is this going to look real? But yeah, it was really blew my mind.
I love it. I love it. And I have the privilege of being able to share some further updates on some of the earlier brands that came through the process. So what you're seeing is you're seeing blazers from Ufame, you're seeing dresses from Q, you're seeing an incredibly cute, yummy mummy tracksuit. Neve, this is already on her website and for sale, but you look at this and you go, this is ready for gaming wear. So really excited to see what happens next with these brands and their digitization journey. So thank you for the privilege. Violetta at West 14th, I love this jacket, and we know that when it's come to things like the fixtures and getting the zips right, and leather is a very difficult textile to work with in the real life, is so expensive to sample with leather, to get the rendering bang on, just beautiful garments, really beautiful garments. So the Q&A, over to the audience. A first question here I have, and we might make this for Stephen. Have you had any feedback from customers or your internal clients or external clients about how they're finding the 3D rendering? Do you think that they'll buy without seeing the fabric or feeling the fabric? What's your sort of instinct or your feedback on that?
I think that's a bit of a tricky one for us, just because of the nature of our business at the moment. As I said when we did our little presentation, we are our own customer, so it's quite easy for us. But I know from the other people that we showed in the team, they were just really blown away by how realistic it looked, and I can't imagine it would be a hindrance for showing it to kind of customers or something, without any disrespect to anyone's customers. Visualization is something that's often very hard for some people who aren't in the industry, and perhaps even in the industry, but who aren't in design. I know I've worked before with buying teams and things, and it's like, we kind of get it, but we need to see the sample. But seeing that is as good as. I mean, it really, really is. There was, you know, as I said, a couple of other people who saw it were just so curious. Oh my God, what's that? That looks really good. Oh, and then they realized it was ours. It's, I can't imagine that it would be a hindrance. I guess potentially you're always going to come across someone who might want to touch it. But I think a great thing is to be able to, you know, the companion that could go with something like this is a swatch book. You know, it's won't necessarily be, you know, a requirement to see the whole garment, but I can see the garment, I can see it move, I can see how it works. Oh, and I can touch the fabric. And I think that would, you know, that can only support it. But the feedback we've had internally so far has been super, super positive.
Awesome. I think for us, it's not going to just sit as its own thing. We will proceed to a physical sample as well, to have in showroom. We will obviously produce a lookbook and all of that sort of stuff with it for sales and things as well. So I think it's not just we're producing this 3D avatar to sell from for us. So I think the biggest part is the savings and reduced waste in the sampling process to get to that point for us.
I jump on that. Do you have any early sort of grades of sort of figures, you know, when you talk about savings, general savings, or are you seeing specific improvements in a percentage way, or?
Well, I mean, to be honest, this was, as I said, we reverse fit ours. So we're going to start implementing it from this season on. So I think we'll really start to see it then, but I can actually already, you know, just looking at this process, how much could be saved. And it's incredible, like rounds and rounds of samples and feedback and fits. And so, yeah, I think it would be amazing. And from a time point of view as well, everything gets cut right back.
And my the blunt question that I can see, which is, how many of you are going to adopt 3D sampling after going through the program?
We definitely are.
Yeah, we will as well.
It's hard for me to say. It's a little bit different for us, but we're super interested. The other thing I was just going to add, I think the great thing for us is, you know, a big thing that I've noticed certainly in other roles that I've had, hanger appeal is really, really important. And quite a lot of our products maybe look a little bit confusing to the customer on the hanger. There's drapes and twists and things that don't really sell them. It doesn't really give the product a lot of hanger appeal. So I think having the little runway and the walking, that's what makes a massive difference for us. It's just gives people that understanding. Oh, that's what it looks like on. Because like I said, you know, sometimes even, you know, when we're showing people things hanging on a hanger, they look at it a bit confused. It's not until they get it on that they realized what, you know, how it's going to work on them. So having that little runway and that rendering of a moving model in it is a really great thing.
These are the sort of really awesome practical conversations that we seem to have almost day in and day out, which is like, okay, so where does it sit in the business selling food chain? How can it create an optimization on a customer experience, or how can it bring me, you know, time and cost reduction or improve my carbon? I love these practical landings, and this is the critical piece around the key to these knowledge exchanges. I wanted to thank the three of you. I wanted to thank our entire fashion brand cohort. You've been wonderful, and I also wanted to acknowledge that new is hard. So there's been real courage to sort of lean into the process and to play with our technology companies and to trust us, shepherd you along, and to also be so incredibly generous to be here on stage and share your thoughts. I'm really thankful for all of you being so open. So thank you. Thanks for being courageous and taking the first step. And I'm very, very grateful that the three of you said yes, that you are feeling positive about the journey. So thank you very much. Thank you for being with us today.
You too.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And now to the next part of today's session. Now, this might be the content that some of you, you know, we're interested in. I'm hoping that now that you've learned more about the 3D sampling workflow, that you're like, there's a whole world of things that can be done with digital. Today, we're going to talk about what next. So you've got these amazing digital renders. You have these assets. Stephen even spoke about the way that the garment on the avatar showing it walking actually gives a customer a bit of a peek into how they might choose to wear the clothing. We're going to talk about the future of sustainable selling. And we have two really wonderful technology companies, platform partners of the AFC that are joining us today. And first of all, I wanted to welcome to the stage Natalie Johnson, CEO and founder of fashion platform Nuno. So excited to see you, Nat. Welcome.
You too.
I'm going to hand over to you and let you share from here. Kia ora.
So Nuno is, we're a marketplace for buying, selling and trading of fashion, NFT, collectibles and digital wearables. So we are a B2B platform and we can help you with your next steps in your strategies. Now you have your beautiful 3D renders. So I'm going to start with a video. So I'll kick into that and then I will come back.
NFTs are really $69 million for an NFT.
One moment, we're just handing over the presentation.
You can't see my video?
Not yet.
Oh. So sorry.
We can now.
Let's try that again.
NFTs are really $69 million for an NFT.
So, as I was saying, we're a B2B to C platform. So we're really here to help you with your next steps on your digital transformation journeys. So we have a beautiful marketplace. It's the front facing for the customers where they can come on, they can buy, sell and trade fashion NFT collectibles and purchase digital wearables. So we only work with directly with brands and clients who can upload their assets as NFTs, and our community love that because they trust us that we're doing authentic product. NFTs has a bit of a reputation being the Wild West at times, but we work with only directly with the brands. And our communities can come on straight away and start building out their wardrobe for the metaverse. So this world, I'm sure everyone on the call by this stage has heard of NFTs and the metaverse, and they've heard of digital fashion. That might be it. They might have children that play in this world and they might get snippets from them. But it is a new enormous area of interest and hype at the moment that I think will settle and just become part of our everyday lives as we all are jumping on a Zoom call. And, you know, I think brands can be a bit overwhelmed with where to in this space. You know, what assets do we start selling as NFTs? Perhaps we don't really have tech teams to think about this internally. And the technology to translate all these files into the different tech that's needed for each different platform. You might not know particular gaming software companies that you want to participate in, and you wouldn't know where to start, how to upload your assets there. And, you know, it can be quite a manual integrations. And, you know, some designers and brands think, oh, I love this space. It looks great, but it's a bit abstract. It's a bit intimidating. It's a bit off-putting. And I've got, you know, a traditional type of brand, and it might not fit in for them. And one thing that's quite key is currently in today's market, you know, there is this huge Web3 movement and community, and you might not have access to that directly today, even though you have your traditional fashion customers. So what we are is we're this sort of one-stop shop for you to come and help create your NFTs and sell them. And we're a real destination for fashion collecting communities that come to us specifically to buy fashion NFTs. So we have a brand and position in market that's recognizable. We've got our community there. You don't have to start from scratch. You can sort of use us to leapfrog out. We help you with your strategy ideas. So we work with, you know, we're working with a very exciting client in New York who's an iconic sort of fashion influencer, if you will. She's got over 7 million followers and she's dropping an NFT collection, and we're working with brand partners who are sort of more traditional fashion brands. So every single person we've ever worked with has a very different strategy that we are able to refine for them. We've got all the integrations, we've got all the technology, all the utility and interoperability, so you don't have to worry about that. And we also can offer white label solutions if you want to start selling these things on your own websites and start getting your customers excited. So here are some of the things that customers love. So they can start interacting with digital fashion and NFTs in such incredible ways. Down on the left, you'll see this Farfetch screenshot. This is actually a Snapchat filter that Farfetch released, and it's voice activated. So you can immediately see how these influencers who make content for us, you know, this chap is saying to the camera, oh, I want to try on the army one. And it just flicks over, and it's kind of insane that these real live use cases are out in the market at the moment. And, you know, there's other examples where you can sort of swish your hand through the filters and start virtually trying on your fashion. So you've got this beautiful digital render. We've just seen examples of that, and we can already start imagining now trying these on for people. Shoes is very popular. It's very easy to do shoe try on. A foot is a foot is a foot. So it's quite easy. Doing garments realistically is still slightly digital, but it's always constantly being refined. And then we can also see use cases of hardcore, sort of more immersed in the metaverse. We've got gamers that actually have avatars, and you know, they've got different players and they can actually completely be digital and wear these assets as skins on those avatars. So, I mean, you can almost NFT anything. It's quite unbound and it can be a bit overwhelming, but there are some real live fashion use cases that are very obvious and logical. So with the sustainability selling that we're talking to today, you could imagine in your mind's eye these beautiful 3D renders we've just seen from the brands today. These could be put on a platform for sale. We could look at sort of pre-order models and make to order, which is, hugely less wasteful than traditional production and then trying to sell through. You can just use these images to enhance marketing messages. So if you've got a key marketing message you want to leverage, that you can do some beautiful PR with your NFTs, build community memberships, and create hype for new collections. At Fashion Week this year, we did see a couple of fashion shows bring in NFTs and activations, which is exciting. You can create a completely unique digital experience for your customers. You can explore new revenue streams. Should you want to sell these gaming skins, it can be incredibly, we're seeing some gaming partners of Roblox, for example, making, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month just selling, digital t-shirts and things like this in the platform. NFTs started as an art experience, and the most popular ones really do stem from artists, and there's a real beautiful collaboration we're starting to see with traditional product and just marrying up with maybe an unheard of or quite small artist and giving them the limelight. You can raise awareness via charity initiatives. We can actually build charitable donations into smart contracts. Every time these types of assets are exchanging hands, trading and selling, that charity is getting a kickback, which is incredible. You can monetize your archives and older iconic collections that people know you for and come to you for, that you might not be in production anymore. You can sort of bring a new lease of life to that. We're looking at some archives of some incredible designers that are, heritage top 20 world brands. It's very exciting. You can start now to build that relationship with next gen, which I think is one of the most exciting and important points of what NFTs and digital fashion can do. You've got your traditional customers that are coming to you now, but what about those children that are coming up the ranks? Are they going to be buying your product, and how do we get them excited about you? You can enter new markets, completely new industries, drive more traffic to your website. We actually did an activation with Diesel where we're driving foot traffic to their new Soho store in New York through an NFT sort of as a ticket, which is hugely exciting. So they came to us with that strategy of, we've just opened this flagship store. We really want to get people in there. And how can we use NFTs to do that? It's a great new way to promote a new product. And, we can also see when we link the digital and the physical, as we've seen so clearly in these examples, that as well as where we see the utopia, we can get full price sales conversion and get people into this metaverse. So we can help you assist and discover your why. Why do you want to get into this space? Why do you want to explore this metaverse and the 3D? And that will really help us define what your drop looks like. We can build out your whole strategy, propose your timelines and drop metrics. There's a lot involved with prices, stock packages, and all collections, but we can help you all the way. We can actually help create these NFT assets, although today those people in the program obviously have them, which is fantastic. We can actually take it one step further, which we are doing with a couple of brands, which is very exciting. And we're taking that render that they've done with Pete and Pons and the team, and we're actually now translating them into, what Roblox wearables, for example, or Decentraland wearables, which are these metaverses that exist. So it's so much fun. We can help you with the minting and the smart contracts. We can help you build that community, and the marketing schedules in this space is a bit unusual, so we can help advise with that. Provide education series to get your current customers into the space, and we can do animations and further 3D collateral like you're going to see here. This is one of my personal favorite slides. So these are the types of assets and NFTs that you can sell. Fashion is synonymous with inspiring imagery and beautiful campaign lookbooks and stunning. This is an iconic video about bringing New York back to life after COVID with Vogue. And then on the right, I'm sure a lot of you would know and recognize this dress from one of our brand partners, but this is a stunning level of detail. So we can sell the almost the art of the product to some collectible buyers there, and we can sell the digital render to those that maybe want to interact with it and wear it. So let's jump into some case studies. We've done some past work with Farfetch and Complex, and where we digitized 14 digital garments and got them dropped into a game. And you can see here, they really blended the physical and the digital. So you could go in and you could dress your avatar, and then you'll see the little avatar running around the game. To emphasize, this wasn't an NFT drop. This was just showing you what you can do with digital fashion. And it's great when we see, big players like Farfetch backing these ideas, because it just shows the appetite and the power of the next steps. So Diesel is one of our clients, and they had an asset ready to go, which is just like the brands here. And they had this shoe that Glenn Martins had designed, and we are using this as the NFT to drive traffic to their store. And we're doing a really exciting lock-in in the store with a big party for holders, which is very exciting. We also delivered a Snapchat filter. So, they thought games. We're also doing a Decentraland one that's coming later in the piece. But initially, their target audience, they're not Web3 native, but they probably have Snapchat. And so that was a really beautiful way to virtually try on and get their customers excited. And you can see here people trying on these sneakers through a lens. Another client here is Giuseppe Zanotti. We don't just do sneakers. I know these examples are all on footwear, but shoes seem to be a really easy one to get going with. Incredible sneaker actually was part of their range, but it just lends itself nicely to this world. And we did this during Fashion Week alongside our partners, Deadfellas. And we made this beautiful 3D render of the shoe, and we made Decentraland wearables. And as you can see in the bottom here, there's a bit of audio where you can actually see the avatars sort of partying, which might sound a bit strange to some of you, but this is a real world. This is real footage. This is happening now, and people go in and, there's concerts held by Steve Aoki in these environments, Paris Hilton, and, people want their avatars to look cool, just like in real life. So this is where we can have some fun. Deadfellas is a true native Web3 community. They're huge. They're a bit of a cult almost. And we were very privileged and lucky to work with them and drop some product. So we created 6 digital items, 4 of which are real life. I even have a few I could flash up on the camera actually. We actually ended up making real life versions of, I'm not sure if you can see that, it's kind of blurring it out, I think it's the background, but we've got bomber jackets, we've got t-shirts, and we've got these digital assets, and the community just went wild. During Metaverse Fashion Week in Decentraland, this range of products outsold some of the world's biggest designers. 50% of the entire sales for this event came from our collection, which was huge. And that's because we tailored the product. We wrote a strategy and dropped product for players in this game, and that's what we can do with yourselves.
Thank you.
So that's us. I hope I haven't overwhelmed or confused people too much. I hope I've driven excitement and get your brains thinking about some opportunities.
Thank you so much. Woo! That was huge and creative and exciting, and probably really, really overwhelming for a lot of us. I think the energy that you have and the examples are just so magic, Nat. And the thing that I loved was when we've sat down with the FashTech Lab participants, is that you've been able to take from, the 10,000 foot excitement, sequined outcome, all the way down into the most pragmatic and practical. And so for those of you who are sitting on the call today going, oh my gosh, how on earth might my brand use an NFT or partner up with Nuno? I would love, if you could share the most practical example that I remember you shared with me was around loyalty marketing. And if you wouldn't mind just explaining a little bit about some of those strategies, that could be quite a helpful thing today.
Yeah, look, I think even though the Web3 community quite at the moment is quite big, it's still very niche. It's big in its boundaries, but it's still talking to a tiny percent of the market. And I think for loyalty and for your current customers, and to be really commercial with this, and to bring your current customers into this space, I think that's ultimate utopia for me, and that's the commercial sort of example we talked to. And to do that, I think we have to maintain the digital with the physical. I think that's where people it really makes sense. It's not too abstract. It's not these angel wings sort of flashing around. It's like, I have this product, I'm going to buy it anyway, and now perhaps I get my digital twin. And that's where we're seeing a lot of interest from brands. So if you're a traditional brand, you could drop a product on our website, the real physical product, and we can sell it much like a Farfetch, except what we can do is we can create that 3D wardrobe, if you will, for the customer, and start them building these digital products as gifts in the background. And so they can be building out this digital wardrobe, almost, I like to say, sort of fashion with a side of NFTs. There's a bit of NFT fatigue at the moment. And so what we do is, we know there are women out there that are interested in this space. They know a little bit about it, but we really think the opportunity of just getting them the assets, just giving them to them. And as the market and the technology will vastly improve and get so much more convenient and so much more widely adopted over the next sort of 3 to 5 years, they're starting now with a wardrobe that might have 50 assets already in there. So that's really where we want to take brands.
Thank you, Natalie. The next time that I go and buy something beautiful over retail, if anyone wants to slide me a digital pair of sunglasses or a little bit of swag in my digital carrier, I'm happy to be a guinea pig there. People are asking how can we get in touch with Natalie? We will be dropping all of the links to all of our technology partners today so that you can get in touch if this is the first time that you've experienced them. But you can reach Natalie via her URL there as well. Thank you so much, Natalie.
Thank you.
Without further ado, I'm so excited. So many of you have heard Simon Locke speak over the years. But this is the first time I've hosted him on one of my stages. So I'm very fangirl, pardon me, Simon. I'm so thrilled that you're joining us, and thank you so much for all of your support, not just of the FashTech Lab program, but of Australian Fashion and the AFC. Thank you for making time to be with us. Another wonderful, kind human who's called completely out of time zone. And today Simon's going to share with us the wonderful potential of luxury virtual showrooming. Delicious. Welcome.
Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, I mean, hopefully good to be here, and hi everyone. Always great to have a chat to my colleagues in Australia. I'm wanted to really focus today on just how the development of 3D assets can really be valuable in the B2B world. So in the selling of wholesale collections, and then also a little bit what Nat was talking about the B2C world, and this development of digital wearables, which is really exciting. So just as a bit of background to our group, we're a fashion technology company. We're operating globally, and we've got 3 technology platforms. Ord, which is our virtual showroom platforms. We're really the first people in the world to develop virtual showrooms back in 2014, and really been the leaders in this area. We've also developed technology which digitizes physical sample collections into 360, enabling them to be shown in a virtual showroom. Now we're moving into Web3 areas with authentic and developing both B2B and B2C marketplaces. So I guess I wanted to focus on a little bit today, and perhaps you can just go to the next slide, Tracy, is that really, virtual showrooms are really, quite frankly, a new phenomenon. I mean, while we've been around since 2014, it was really only during the pandemic that brands really needed to rely on virtual showrooms for the first time to present their wholesale collections to buyers around the world, that couldn't travel when everyone, London, Paris, Milan, New York, and Sydney were all closed down. This was the way the fashion industry was doing its wholesale business. So as everyone can appreciate, there was a real acceleration during the last couple of years and a great adoption of virtual showrooms. So we did a couple of things through the pandemic. We'd always had our multi-brand virtual showroom platform, or .com, and others had to go virtual as well, like Jaw and New Order and the rest. But we saw a growing phenomenon where designers no longer wanted to be part of a multi-brand environment. They wanted to establish their own standalone, fully customized virtual showrooms. So just go to the next slide, Tracy. So this is what we built during the pandemic, and it's called Augmeta. And these are beautiful, fully custom virtual showrooms where a designer can really create a very, very immersive experience to being able to present wholesale collections. And this is the first virtual showroom platform that really embraces 3D images. So we are able to compress and present those 3D renders that we've just seen marvelously created by those three companies. Now, really, for the first time, they can be used in a valuable way in a virtual showroom. Just go to the next slide. Thanks, Tracy. So, what's really interesting is that we work with hundreds of designers around the world. I mean, Augmeta, which is our custom, we work with about 70 leading designers, from Louis Vuitton to the Row to Levan to Jeffrey Charles Loverboy to a Cold War. They're all building these standalone virtual showrooms, and of course they need digital assets to be able to present in them. So, I just want to present you the reality of the world too. Is that right now there's no ready-to-wear designers that are presenting their wholesale collections as 3D renders at the moment. So the virtual showroom technology is now there to be able to do that. And we're going to see designers really accelerate with the use of a 3D design. I mean, we heard someone talk about Clo 3D and Browserware and many of these other platforms and the one that you've been using. More and more design studios around the world are slowly starting to digitize. So we heard about Bianca's experience in Sydney, and that is pretty typical of that generation of designers, that they're coming through, they're actually working physically with tool, they're working with mannequins, they're draping, they're folding, and they're creating a physical pattern. So we're in this transition period at the moment that a lot of new designers that are now coming into those big design houses are starting to be trained in designing in 3D. And it's going to take about a decade, to be completely honest with you. We're going to see the industry transition from, basically the physical production of samples to the digital production of samples. I'm hoping it's going to be a lot quicker than that, while happen tomorrow, because we all know that if we produce digital wholesale collections digitally, we don't have all the sampling, we don't have all the waste, and we can present them in beautiful virtual showrooms. Buyers can place their orders and the physical orders can be produced. The reality of the situation is that, it's going to be a generational change. I mean, we work with, everyone from Demnar at Balenciaga, through to Nicholas at Louis Vuitton. These guys are just not going to start designing in 3D. So, but the generation behind them is, and this is the transitional change we're going to see in the industry. What we're seeing, though, is a lot of digital native designers coming up who are just going, I'm now going to create a fashion brand, which is digital, and I'm only going to create digital wearables. So it's actually going to be no physical representation. And this is a very exciting new part of the industry. So I think this movement towards 3D in a B2B sense is slow. However, I think, and as Nat said, the ability to create digital wearables for consumers, this is going to be adopted a lot quicker. And platform opening will become the net-a-porter of digital fashion, a platform called Authentic, which is being launched later in the year, is really going to accelerate consumer interest in digital wearables. So I think that's really interesting. But right now, virtual showrooms, what can you do with virtual showrooms? Yes, you can take your 3D assets and you can showcase them and buyers can understand. You can digitize your existing physical collections. I mean, we have our Orb 360 technology, which is very effective to do that. You can do virtual tours of your physical showroom and your virtual showroom. You can have interactive video. So there's a lot of technology which is really being used now, and buyers are getting more and more used to placing their wholesale collections virtually and online. Where it's interesting, we're just in the throes of about to fire up Men's Fashion Week around the world. And, we really are seeing a great hybrid way of doing business now, where there's many buyers who are still can't travel, particularly Asian buyers. And if you want Asian orders, if you haven't got a virtual showroom, well, you're just not going to be able to deal with them. So there's a real hybrid operation now. And so, as a designer, you cannot exist without a virtual showroom, and, you're balancing that with a hybrid of the physical showroom. So a bit of where the future is going. And if you just click to the next slide. So with Augmenta, we're really at the cutting edge of development of virtual showrooms. So where are they going to go as we develop more Web3 technologies? And this is what Vanessa was talking about before. The ability first to be able to create, beautifully rendered 3D environments. I mean, at the moment, virtual showrooms are presenting, 360-degree view collections in a 2D environment. It's just very flat. But like, we heard about Roblox and Sandbox and Decentraland, and everyone's familiar with, computer games. We'll pretty soon be able to present our wholesale collections within metaverse 3D showrooms, which are much more immersive. And of course, the next step in experiencing those 3D showrooms is not just through a screen, but it's with a VR headset. And as Oculus becomes more and more developed, with the monies Mr. Zuckerberg's putting behind it, and very shortly we're going to have, Wi-Fi connected VR goggles, which are going to be a lot less cumbersome than what's out there at the moment, and really a much better way to immerse ourselves in these metaverse environments. But then the other thing that we're going to see in B2B virtual showrooms is the ability to buy digital collections wholesale. So this is something that I really implore everyone to be thinking about, is not just producing and selling a physical wholesale collection, but starting to think about a digital wholesale collection as well. We're starting now to digitize designers' collections, maybe not their entire collection, but maybe 10 or 20% as for sale as digital collectibles. There's marketplaces for these digital collectibles opening up all around the world. I mean, as an example, we do a lot of work with Selfridges here in London. They are seriously looking at developing their own NFT marketplace for digital wearables, so that they can, when they buy a collection, they buy the physical collection and the digital version of it as well. And they can sell it through their physical stores, through their Web2 online, but also through their NFT marketplaces as well. Because what we're going to see is that, as Natalie said, yes, we're going to see slowly people wear digital fashion in the metaverse on their avatars. But right now, where we're going to see that low-hanging fruit is everyone's going to wear their digital wearables on their Instagram. And, this is where we're seeing a lot of interest. So, every fashionista around the world who doesn't want to be seen in the same outfit twice on Instagram, I mean, rather than going and buying something from a fast fashion outlet, just to have a new outfit, then why not go and buy a piece of digital fashion? Perhaps you could never afford the real thing, but you can wear the digital version of it on your Instagram or in your TikTok feed or as a filter. And I think this is where we're going to see really early consumer adaptation. And eventually, yes, as we get more used to having our avatars and working into and walking around in metaverse environments, then we'll want to be able to have that full wearable experience. But, you know, you can't get into digital wholesale fashion. You can't get into selling digital wearables as NFTs if you don't start off with that 3D render, because, you know, having a 360-degree photo, which is what we're doing at the moment with All 360, you know, doesn't translate as an animation. So it's got to be in the correct files to be able to work in Web3 and also in Web2 showrooms. So, you know, I absolutely applaud what the AFC is doing, because, you know, this is the future and we've got to start thinking about it now. And, you know, my call out to every designer in Australia, and, you know, I'm sorry, but I've actually lived through this. But for those of you who don't know, I mean, I was the creator of Australian Fashion Week. And the reason why I went digital is because the buyers stopped coming because of the expense of travel. And so how are we going to get people to see these collections? Let's create virtual showrooms. But the Australian industry has not been good to embrace technology in the past. It really, really hasn't. So I think what the AFC is doing, and particularly encouraging, you know, really to get your hands dirty in creating 3D fashion, is how we can really leapfrog over many industries around the world, and we can really develop some incredible enterprise for our industry. So I think this project is fantastic, and you know, we're here and we work with many Australian designers in our virtual showrooms, and, you know, we can work with your physical collections and we can work with your digital collections as well. But I'm really glad to see so much focus on the industry on this particular issue.
Pardon me cutting you off.
That's it.
Thank you so much, and thank you for that challenge. I love that challenge. I love that call to arms. We really appreciate your support, and it's been fun. I'm hoping that some of our FashTech Lab cohort are coming through into the virtual showrooming platform with Ord. I know that David and Simon have both been working with our cohort, and I look forward to being able to share when we get to that stage in our case study, to be able to show virtual showrooming at its finest on the Ord platform. I do have one brief question for you, which is actually around sustainability measures. And you did talk about the travel hack. So obviously that the COVID environment did create a real interest in shifting to virtual showrooming. Is anyone asking you carbon impact measures by choosing to select an immersive showroom, or is it a different conversation?
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. We did a huge big piece of market research just before the pandemic struck, called Zero to Market, looking at the actual carbon footprint of the fashion industry as it travels around the world to the various fashion weeks, and it's disgusting the amount of carbon emissions we put into the atmosphere and contributing to, you know, the death of the planet to a certain extent. So I think there is great awareness in terms of the travel that the fashion industry does, but it's looking at every part of the supply chain. So it's looking at, you know, how can we do away with physical samples? I mean, you know, we heard Stephen from Bianca talking about, okay, well, if we just do one physical sample and then I can create the 27 different colorways digitally, this is a great first step. You know, I mean, that's the energy, that's the saver fabric, that's, you know, it's a very much a sustainable way of thinking. So, you know, I think the onus is on all of us to think holistically along our own part of the supply chain. What can we do to lower our carbon footprint and to ensure that, you know, we have, you know, ongoing sustainable operations. Virtual showrooms have a role to play. Digital assets have a role to play. I mean, you know, just one thing, which is, you know, our Orb 360 images, the biggest contribution it's made to sustainability is that it lowers the amount of returns from customers, and lowering returns saves on diesel and couriers and logistics. So digital can have an impact in a way that that sometimes unexpected. But I guess the onus is on all of us to look at where we sit in the supply chain and every part of what we do, and can we do it in a more sustainable way.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today. I am just going to quickly dip into the Q&A. Thank you. And see if there's any other burning questions. As always with Knowledge Exchange, any questions that we haven't covered today, we will send you all an update via EDM. Look out for your email inboxes. And I wanted to take this opportunity. As I said, today is exciting but bittersweet in our 6-month journey together, where we've watched the fashion brands transition through their journey with Future Map at IMCRC and UTS and capability building, and then the 3D sampling process, and then to today's exciting new springboard into sustainable selling. 2022, a big year. What happens next? So what happens with FashTech Labs? Well, the digital transformation program is coming to a close with our cohort. However, it's not the end. And if you haven't had the opportunity to watch the entire process, I'd invite you to do some catch-up viewing, because you all haven't had enough binge watching. We are hosting all of our knowledge exchanges on the AFC website and on the AFC YouTube channel. So you're very welcome to have a look at that content and message us and ask us questions that arise as a result of viewing. Today's knowledge exchange will also join that selection of content. And as we've mentioned, we're also in the process of building a series of tools, checklists, and case studies that will cover off what are the actions that brands need to know in regards to taking a digital journey. So if you keep your eyes and ears on our main social channels, you'll see when that content is ready and available. I also wanted to invite anyone here on the line today that was going, I need to get onto this 3D sampling. I'm ready. If you're ready, so the things that I can say, early stage case studies sort of draft for me, which is what we've learned in the last 6 months. The workflows, they're designed to align with what you're most familiar with, but they can also be adopted as a hybrid. So if you want to run an analog process and a digital one, or you want to take some rendering, it's very possible. The other thing that was really great to see for me was that we've had emerging brands, and we've had some of Australia's biggest retail enterprise brands in the program. So that spectrum is there. We've been able to show that the process of digitization is possible wherever you sit. If you don't have a tech pack, we can help you get there. If you don't use patterns, if you are gender fluid, these are all of the different use cases that we've tweaked. If you have fur or leather, it's been such a wonderful learning opportunity for us. So we're feeling quite confident that we could take a conversation wherever you're at. The other thing that we wanted to make sure was anyone, whoever you are in the Australian fashion landscape, we want you to have the opportunity to access this technology. And the one thing is the democratization by bringing together these 4 Australian technology brands to support industry. You're not needing to reinvest in training and education and staff. You can dip your toe in and give it a go. And what we have been able to show is that there's been a cost reduction. So for those of you that did take samples out of your workflow, we saw a cost saving. We're seeing time savings. Actually, for one of the brands, it had saved between 5 and 6 months, which was greater than we had anticipated. We thought it was more like maybe 9 or 12 weeks, but they had saved up to 6 months through the digital rendering process. And most of all, this improvement to carbon impact. So the 3D workflow solution, we feel really confident that this FashTech Lab program has allowed us to thrash out a really viable pilot. And to that end, I wanted to invite you, if you would like to get one of your own 3D workflows going, please drop Pete an email and fix a time to talk about your needs. He's able to give you coaching. Hello at Style Atlas there. So please write to him. And on that note, I'm going to pass back over to Layla to sign off. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you so much, Tracy. It's funny because I'm sitting here with the team and we all have our laptops on. So, and we're having a bit of a technical problem we had a bit of a technical problem in terms of who was on the video, but it's all good. It's all in the spirit of new technology and adapting to the virtual world. Again, thank you so much to everyone who has participated in this session today, to the City of Sydney, our participating brands, tech partners, and to all of you joining us here today, and of course to Natalie Johnson and Simon Locke for presenting the sustainable selling platforms. I'm so excited to see FashTech Lab come to life again this morning. I'm blown away with the potential of the scaling of this technology across our industry. I honestly believe that for our industry to prosper in a way that also respects people and planet, technology is going to be the most important ingredient helping brands scale and compete on the global fashion stage. In fact, Australia can be world leading in adopting fashion technology, starting with this FashTech Lab as a proof of concept and moving on to a Sydney-based FashTech hub. So watch this space. We have lots of exciting things coming up and we can't wait to share those with you soon. Thank you again for supporting the AFC and for being here today. Have a wonderful day and see you soon. Bye.
Ka kite. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.